who is a great player and handles the outdoor elements better than maybe anybody. And it has a lot of power. It's gotten a lot bigger the past 2 years in a good sense. Like, good, strong weight, gotten taller. She was a kid on tour a few years ago. And, now she's a major champion, and congratulations to her. So I know that wasn't long, but I don't really have too much to say on the championship. I heard Jaylen Brown is selling his Penthouse. I saw it as a title on Get Up. And I heard Charles Barkley talking about it, and he kind of went at the angle of Jaylen Brown wants out and why do players want out and stuff like that. And, I really don't know the whole reasoning behind it yet, so I don't want to jump to conclusions and say that Jaylen Brown wants out. He could just be moving somewhere else in Boston. He could, they could have let him know that they're going to trade him, because there's been a lot of talks about Boston getting Giannis Antetokounmpo, or maybe going in a different direction in another way. The things I've heard from Jaylen Brown's mouth is he wants to be there next year. So, I'm a Celtics fan, and I hope that's true, that he wants to be there next year. That I do remember Shaq saying that during another day on Inside the NBA, I think, that he was trying to tell Jaylen Brown that, you want to stay in Boston, you want to stay with Tatum, and don't let the media, get to you. Just be, or he might have been saying this on his podcast, but don't let the media get to you and try and basically split you up with Jason Tatum. And I know he said he always regrets, and I remember this is on a podcast he was with Penny Hardaway, which maybe that's where he said the first thing too. But he always regrets, leaving Penny and leaving Kobe. And he always wonders how many championships he could have got with both of them. And, Charles Barkley was saying, he doesn't understand why players want to leave good players, which I don't know the whole situation, because I wasn't growing up when he was playing. So I know he left Philadelphia, Phoenix, and I don't know all those situations. So, but I think he's right. Even if he does go to another team and he leads that team, eventually he's going to need good players around him to win there. So even if you get your own team, you're going to have to get good players there, and there's going to be more talk about who's the 1 and who's the 2 or 1A, 1B over there too. So I think he's right on that. I don't know the reasoning why Jaylen Brown sold his Penthouse, but I will say, when Jaylen Brown got into that thing with Stephen A, after Jaylen Brown said this was his favorite year, and Stephen A basically said you shouldn't do that. And I know Stephen A was talking about how, and I can't remember the whole order of this whole thing, because I think they went back and forth a couple times, but I know Stephen A was saying, I don't know, he said stuff like, Jason Tatum came on First Take, and, Jaylen Brown wasn't there, and then Jaylen Brown was kind of like, what does that have to do with anything? Which I agree. He got on, he critiqued a lot of things that Stephen A said, and I agree with a lot of it, but Jaylen Brown was saying that, Stephen A couldn't understand why this was his favorite season, because really Jaylen Brown was just talking about how he and his team overcame adversity, and maybe Stephen A hadn't had to go through anything like that in his life, which I don't think that's true, the second part, because if you've heard Stephen A talk, he got fired from ESPN, I don't think he came up with the same upbringings that he had now. So he has had to work a lot to get to where he is. But the other part of that is, I think Jaylen Brown, listening to Nick Wright, Jaylen Brown made clear that he liked being a lead dog this year. And I don't think, even if it's wrong, I don't think that people looking into what he said as far as this being his favorite year and thinking it's because he was the lead dog is a low blow or anything like that. I think he put out, I don't know, he was talking to the media and talking about how, there was no drop off between this year and last year with him as the lead dog. And I think I want to say he tweeted something about that too. He said it in some form. I'm pretty sure he said it to the media, and I'm pretty sure he tweeted it. But you'd have to fact check me on that. But I don't know. It seems like he's just made clear that he liked being the lead dog, and he had success with it, and that's fine. And Tatum's the kind of guy that could take that. And I'm not saying he's taking a shot at Tatum and saying he wants to be the lead dog and he thinks he should be the lead dog and not Tatum. And even if he's saying that, I don't think he's really trying to overthrow, how the tiers are, how things are set up with Tatum as the lead dog at Boston. But I think it could be true that this was his favorite year because he got to be the lead dog for a lot of it. And, that's fine. I don't think Jaylen Brown should have came out and said that, honestly, because you got to understand how some things, are going to be perceived by the media. If you come out and say, this is your favorite year, and it was the year where your star player was down with an Achilles tear for most of the year, and y'all weren't as successful as y'all have been other years. Even if it is your favorite year, and it is for the reasons that you said, because y'all overcame adversity and y'all got the 2 seed and y'all were really supposed to be tanking. I think you gotta have more perception of how the outside's gonna look at that. So, to me, I think he did make clear that he liked being the lead dog this year, but I don't think that means he necessarily wants to leave, and I hope that's not the case. I hope he doesn't want to leave because I know Boston loves him, and I know he's been such an instrumental and main piece of their title run and this the success they've had almost since he and Tatum walked in the door. Made the conference finals and took LeBron to 7. Tatum's rookie year, Brown's second year. When Kyrie and Gordon Hayward went down. So I don't, I think he's kind of downplaying how, even if he did say it was his favorite year because of how they overcame adversity, I think he is downplaying how he liked being the lead dog, because I think he made that clear. But I hope he doesn't leave. And saying all this, he could just be selling his penthouse to get into a new place, and all this could mean nothing. Like I said earlier, and I hope that's it. And I don't think he wants out because he said he didn't want out. And maybe I'm naive, but I don't think he should want to leave because him and Tatum are a good foundation. And Coach Mazzulla, I think Coach Mazzulla is a really good coach. I think the main problem they had this year was, one, Tatum, was getting back in the swing of things and trying to raise his level of play, coming off an Achilles, coming back off of it so fast and stuff. And also, they traded all their support and tried to tank. They traded Porzingis. They traded Holiday. They let Cornette go. They let Horford walk. I don't understand why they tanked after having a championship team. And now you got Brad Stevens saying, they're light years. I don't know what he said, but he just said they weren't close. He said they were more of a threat to be a champion on paper this year. I don't understand the whole idea of tanking all the time. I don't understand why the Pacers did it. I don't understand why the Celtics did it. And now the Pacers don't have a top pick. I think because of that trade they made for Zubac. I just I hope this new stuff ends tanking because it's not smart. It's not even smart. Teams are self-destructing themselves. And I would say that Boston kind of retooled because they ended up going for it anyways more than tanking. But there is no reason to tank. I don't understand why you don't ride out with your team in the sunset. Um, the Knicks came back on them, I think 3 of those 4 games last year from big deficits. They definitely could have won that series, and that's what the Knicks do. And the Knicks are super clutch, and the Knicks are tough. And if they played that Boston team again this year, I would pick the Knicks. But you can't act like Boston didn't have a legitimate chance to go win the championship again. It was time to blow it up because they lost a close series where their star player got hurt in Game 4, and they would have lost that series anyways. I think if Tatum didn't get hurt, because they would have lost that game. They were down enough, and then they would have lost the series. But I just don't I don't think they used to do this in the NBA. Just blow up at every single sign of adversity. Karl Malone stayed with Utah for years. Isaiah Thomas stayed for Detroit for years. Michael Jordan stayed with Chicago for years, and they all lost more than they won. So why are you blowing up at every single time it looks like you might be on your way down? I mean, just keep the same group together. That group's going to get better at playing together. Those individual players are going to get better at playing together. And I understand you have to let go of some people sometimes, because sometimes you can't pay people as much as they're worth on the open market because it's not, bluntly as valuable to you on your team as they are maybe somewhere else, or they're being perceived within the market. But you had a championship team. You want to draw that out as long as you can. Now, blow it up for what? Now you got a bunch of players who are in the middle of their prime, and you're trying to get young again at the same time. What are you really doing, honestly? Why don't you just keep fielding a team that could be good around Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum? Why would you have blown it up for 1 year that Jason Tatum is hurt, and then you got to go get new players that are good again the next year? I know they didn't want to be in the second apron and all that. And I would have understood Porzingis. If it was just Porzingis, yeah. Because Porzingis was having that weird illness, injury, whatever it was, and no one could figure it out. Or at least that's what they were saying. And I understand if you just can't trust him to be on the floor, even though he was a huge part to that championship team. But I didn't get the 1 year tank, the 1 year rebuild. I think that messed a lot of things up. I think they should have just tried again. If they would have ran that team back minus Porzingis, you kept Holiday, Horford, Cornette, I think you would have had a better team. And you probably wouldn't have got beat by the Sixers in 7 games. Even though that Sixers team is very talented. I don't know. And now you got your second best star. I don't know if you're wanting him out or he's wanting out, or this is all nothing. I'm hoping this is all nothing. I'm assuming this is all nothing, but it's in the news lately, so it's something to talk about. There's now another situation in the NBA. Ja Morant, there's a report that he'll be traded within the next month, and I'm a little surprised by that because. Not that he's, it's no secret they wanted to trade him, but it seemed like they weren't going to trade him unless they felt like they got an offer that was fair back, the Grizzlies. And it seems like they're getting to the point where they just want him out of there. And I think that's the right decision. overall. I think with the gun stuff,